Thorpe is there to take the candy.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of 4th and 15 with Mel and Smooth. I'm Mel. Joining me as always is Ronnie, Big Smooth, and again, Smooth. What's happening, man?
Mel, what's going on, bro? Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we hope that you enjoy our show today.
All right, before we get started, this portion of our show is brought to you in part by Flow and Balance Studios. You want to get your stretch on or just trying to add some years to your life? Visit Flow and Balance Yoga Studios. For more information, visit flowandbalance.life on the internet. Okay, not a lot to talk about, but Super Bowl's over, and it did not play out how I thought it would. San Francisco let me down big time. I don't know about you, but they let me down big time because I thought defensively they had this game in hand. It looked like they had Patrick Mahomes in check, and it just didn't. Towards the end of the game, it just didn't look like that.
Yeah, I at first when I picked, the main reason I was doing that was because of the offense. And what I looked at was, okay, Andy Reid being somebody who's been there before, also him having a quarterback like Mahomes and the receiving core he has. I think the biggest surprise that I had about that game was probably the Chiefs' defense. I didn't think they'd be able to stop the run like that because it's not something that they were strong at throughout the year. But like you said, San Francisco's defense kind of folded in the second half there. I'm not sure what adjustments they couldn't do or if they just wanted to kind of, pick on Richard Sherman a little bit because he did show that he was having some trouble keeping up towards the second half. But other than that, man, I felt like once they got that momentum going, it was hard to stop them.
Yeah, and on top of that, there's some talk around the league among reporters and people in the know that a lot of the blame it falls on Kyle Shanahan. And looking back on it, I could say it could go both ways because no matter what, no matter what the coach calls, you still have to execute. And in the second half, 49ers just didn't execute. They didn't look like they did in the first half. They didn't get to Patrick Mahomes like they should have. Garoppolo missed some throws. He missed one big throw that could have turned the game around and put the game out of reach. They let Tyreek Hill get loose. They let Mahomes get loose sitting back in the pocket. He was picking them apart. And you can't do that when you have a guy just like Mahomes sitting back there. That's not what you're supposed to do because it could hurt you, and it did.
No, I feel the same way about that. They did let some guys get away from them, and like you said, the execution just wasn't there. I'm not sure, what that was about, or if there was a mental aspect that played into it. It's just crazy, man, because to see the way that they played all year long, and then to kind of just drop it like that was a big surprise. I'm just happy that Andy Reid finally got one as a head coach. It's just good to see him after being out of it for so long as far as, his Super Bowl appearances with that one he had with the Eagles. But to be out of it for so long and to come back, here it is. And the Chiefs haven't been there in 50 years. It was just a really good story, I guess, overall, too, to see them get that. But with that win and just the way that they played and seeing how their season has went this year and also the previous year, do you feel like this is one of those teams where maybe they're the new talk of the league? Are they the ones going to be replacing that hype that New England had prior years? I mean, do you see something like that happening with them in the long run?
Oh, absolutely. And here's why. You have one of the most efficient passers in football today in Patrick Mahomes. You have Tyreek Hill for however long you got him, and you have a plethora of options with that offense as far as the running game goes in introducing new plays, new schemes. You have a lot to work with and Patrick Mahomes is still young. Mind you, Patrick Mahomes is only the second black quarterback to win a Super Bowl. So there is a lot of momentum going behind that going into next season. I don't expect them to repeat, but if they make it back to at least the conference championship, that will show you where they are within for the next at least 5 years. Because Andy Reid knows how to coach. No doubt about it. He dealt with McNabb. He dealt with T.O. You know, that Eagles team was scary, but he held it together. I think Andy Reid is in the right situation at the right time with the right quarterback for him. So as long as Andy Reid's there, I think they will be the talk of the league for at least the next 5 years.
And I guess for me, you know, I'm glad to see that the tables are turning. I'm glad to see a lot more teams are starting to, you know, show signs of life, and franchises are changing around and stuff like that. Because, I mean, I know for a fact, me beginning of the year, if someone would have told me that they would have seen, you know, the Tennessee Titans in the AFC Championship game, I probably would have laughed at that. Just little stuff like that we saw happen this year, or New England getting beat out the first round. Like, it's just so much that happened where you look at player and personnel and you're like, okay, that could happen, just various scenarios. But to see these things play through the way that they have this season, a lot of it was a shock. You know, Baltimore getting knocked out, stuff like that. It just didn't make sense to me at first looking at it statistically or even seeing film. And these guys play the way they've been playing all year. But it just goes to show you that no matter what team you're on, you know, everybody's a professional. They're there for a reason. And like you said, with regards to this last game, you got to execute. You can't just go off of your name or what you've been doing all year. That game is for you at that time. You got to come through and make those plays.
Right. Now, we move from that to free agency. And I wanted to ask you, because there was a big situation, or what if situation, that popped up. And it was, what if Dak Prescott ends up in New England?
Man. You know,
now mind you, because wait, before you get started, mind you, Tom Brady's a free agent this year. And there's no guarantee New England's going to bring it back. And this is Dak's contract year. And granted, everybody's been saying Dak doesn't deserve the money. Dak doesn't deserve this. Imagine if free agency hits, Dak doesn't re-sign with Dallas, ends up somewhere like New England, and Tom Brady ends up in Dallas. Now you give Tom Brady exactly what he's been missing for the last, I'd say, 15 years, which is a solid 1,000-yard back.
Very true.
It could be interesting.
You know, seeing that. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Or Andy Dalton's not going to be re-signed, possibly. That could end up in Cincinnati. You got AJ Green. There's a lot of scenarios out there.
See, that's the main thing I was thinking though too, because I'm like, man, if New England was to go after Andy Dalton, you gotta get AJ Green over there. That would be crazy. First of all, like getting them two to just jump on over to somewhere like New England. I feel like with Belichick's system, it'll definitely revitalize Andy Dalton and also give AJ Green a big comeback year. That'll be very exciting to see, actually, even though I don't like New England, but I am a huge AJ Green fan. I just feel like he definitely needs to, you know, jump ship and figure something out. And he's given his time and done what he can do with the Bengals, you know, all these years. But it's just time for him to make that kind of jump. I would love to see that, actually. I would love to see that. I feel like between those different moves we talked about, I feel like Dalton and Green going over there, I like that. Prescott possibly could happen. I feel like Belichick would definitely use his strengths to his advantage for sure. And like you said, Brady ending up in Dallas, that would be That'd be pretty cool, actually, man. To have Zeke, play with him and everything, that'd be awesome. I feel like that's something that they're missing down there anyway. Now, I think, is this also the year for like the Saints dealing with Drew Brees and I think
I don't think Drew
Kamara?
Brees. Hey, truth be told, I don't think Drew Brees is leaving New Orleans. There's too good of a relationship there, and you got Kamara, who's got plenty of years on his life. You got a great backup quarterback who's also the fastest player on the team, who plays multiple positions now. I don't think he's leaving. In the event he does, it would have to be some type of dumb move on the Saints front office end for him to just say, you know what, I don't want to come back. Now, the AJ Green thing that you brought up is very interesting because it's no secret Cincinnati is the cheapest franchise in the NFL.
Super cheap.
After a while, they don't want to pay their players. So AJ Green ending up in New England or ending up following maybe Dak Prescott to Dallas if he resigns, or Tom Brady. Wherever the case is, that's an interesting scenario. Because like we said, Cincinnati don't like paying people after a while. Mm-hmm. Not only that, they're not the smartest franchise and haven't been in the last 20 years.
Yeah. Very
so
true.
That's an interesting scenario you brought up too, because I can see, AJ Green's a quiet guy when it comes to talking about deals and contracts and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if he just says, you know what, I love you guys, but it's not worth it. I'm gonna go find something to play for a contender.
Absolutely. And you know what? He's one of those guys who more than deserves the right to do that. I mean, he put his time in for a very long time in Cincinnati. There's nobody that could sit here and say to AJ Green, you know what, man, that's disloyal and all this other crap that, a lot of fans will feel or get into with that situation. But this man did everything that he could possibly do. There's nothing more he could have done for that team. I mean, like you said, they don't want to really pay anybody. They haven't put any more talent out there in the core to be able to kind of take the pressure off him a little bit. I feel like Boyd is a decent receiver for them. Eifert's been there for a little bit, but outside of that, I mean, there's no one else that really you can look at that's going to carry that team. So I don't know, man, but I would love to see that scenario happen. Then there's also, let's see, Melvin Gordon is up for contract. Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, you know what? Phillip Rivers just bought a house back in Florida. Actually, he just moved back to Florida.
Ooh.
So it might be a change up where he decides to sign with the Florida team. It's a possibility.
Could you? Okay. This is getting interesting. So Drew. It's not that. I'm sorry, not Drew. Phillip Rivers buying a house in Florida. Let's say he signs with the Dolphins, and then the Dolphins still choose to draft, I don't know, Tua or something like that. Do you see a scenario like that happening? They'd
be set. They'd be set for the next 10 years. They would be set because Tua would be learning behind one of the quietly the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
True.
All they'd have to do is shore up the line and get him a running back. They have some decent receivers. I mean, they're granted they're no name according to the NFL, but they beat New England, and they've seemed to been New England's kryptonite the last couple years. So, if that were to happen, Miami might be headed in the right direction, and they might be stepping up to compete with Buffalo and New England for that divisional crown.
Yeah, definitely. So there's that. And then you also have, let's see. So Melvin Gordon and Derrick Henry. We all know Derrick Henry getting re-signed. It's not even a conversation. Melvin Gordon. True. Melvin Gordon.
They let him go.
I can see that. I can actually see that. I mean, it's just Tennessee we talking about, so I can see that. Melvin Gordon.
Okay.
He out, right? And then he came back because, do you want to play football or do you not? So he comes back, he plays. The team has a very quiet year. Nothing much comes out of that. Do you think they'll put up with that again, or are they going to let this man walk?
You know what? I'm going to say that's a double-edged sword, but here's why I'm saying it's a double-edged sword. It's no secret. The most important player on the NFL squad is the quarterback, without a doubt. But behind that, the second and third most important players on that team are the center and the running back. Melvin Gordon produces, and he's solid every year. San Diego did not want to pay him what he felt he was deserving of.
Mm-hmm.
I can't blame him for that, because let's look at reality. We had this talk, what was it, 8 weeks ago? Players are underpaid anyway. If you knew the dynamics of what goes into, getting paid and how much you're paid, and then having to save that money and sit on that money for 6 months until you come back, why not? If he doesn't come back, that's on San Diego. I strongly believe that's on San Diego, because they need a running back.
True.
Just for the sake of argument, let's say Phillip Rivers does stay in San Diego, finishes his career out. You're going to want him to have the best running back available. Derrick Henry ain't going nowhere.
Right.
You might get somebody like Le'Veon Bell or, Kareem Hunt, if the Browns let Kareem Hunt go. And
Mm-hmm.
if Le'Veon Bell is that frustrated and unhappy that he just decides to leave New York. But that's not a guarantee. What is
True.
a guarantee is, if I'm Phillip Rivers and I decide to come back, y'all better keep Melvin Gordon where he's at, and you better pay him. Because if you leave me hanging, let's give him credit. He's made mediocre receivers look great. San Diego's receiving corps may be the best in the AFC West. But if you don't give him a running back, you're putting way too much pressure on a 40-year-old guy. Not fair.
I agree with that. And, I was glad you said that, Ramel, because what I was thinking about with regards to that situation is, I felt like if Phillip Rivers comes back, there's definitely a strong case there where Melvin Gordon comes back. But I also feel strongly like if Phillip Rivers chose to move on, and let's say that he is ending up somewhere like Miami, I just don't see Melvin Gordon coming back. Yeah.
I don't either.
I feel like it's like a 1-2.
Yeah, it was. And as weird as it seems, and as weird, I know this is going to sound weird, but in the event, because free agency has started, in the event Phillip Rivers takes that jump and moves back to Florida, as he has already done, and he decides to sign with Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, Miami, any one of those teams, and you have Tua behind it, or you have, dare I say, Jameis Winston.
Man.
I think, truthfully, the best situation for him would be Miami, because Miami, quiet as it's kept, yes, they do have a tendency to let good players go, but it's not because that they don't want to keep them. It's more because I personally looked at it and I think that they can't pay them. It's not that they don't want to, it's that they can't. Ticket sales have been down. That's an expensive stadium, I've been told, and you're not winning. So when you're not winning, you're losing money. When you're losing money, you can't pay your players top-notch money.
True.
So I'm thinking, if Phillip Rivers does go to Miami, I think this is a jump towards the right direction for the entire organization.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Melvin Gordon followed.
Okay.
I wouldn't. Because something tells me Rivers and Gordon have a good enough relationship to where they'll talk to each other about this type of move. And if it's feasible and it's possible, I think they make that move together.
That makes sense. Okay. I got a couple more names for you. We'll look at wide receiver again. So these two guys, Emmanuel Sanders, right? So you're coming off of being a part of a Super Bowl. You can't really take much credit for helping the team get there. He had a decent year, but not what we've seen in the past, obviously. He'll be 33 years old in March. He's coming off of a season where he had 66 receptions for 869 and 5 TDs. But in the postseason, though, he caught 5 catches, being targeted 8 times for 71 yards total and no touchdowns. Me, I don't see him coming back to the team. What are your thoughts on that, and what do you feel like he would end up at if he gets signed?
If I'm San Francisco, I'd talk to him ASAP. Here's why.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Emmanuel Sanders came to the team late in the season. Yes, he caught 66 passes for 800 and some change and 5 touchdowns. You're missing, not you, but people who don't really pay attention to free agency. You're missing a valuable point about Emmanuel Sanders. Mm-hmm. Emmanuel Sanders is a damn good leader on the field and in the locker room. You take him out of the equation, you do not have a leader on that San Francisco wide receiving corps. If I'm San Francisco, I'm not even calling his agent. I'm calling him. What we got to do to keep you here? Because imagine if the 49ers had Emmanuel Sanders at the beginning of this past season. Imagine if he catches more than 66 passes and he goes over 1,000 yards, because he is a 1,000-yard receiver. I don't care what nobody tells you. He's shown he's a 1,000-yard receiver. Just imagine what that offense looks like if he has a whole season and he's got a lot of other receivers, a plethora of running backs, and a quarterback that can get everybody the ball. And he's got time to work with everybody. Just imagine what that looks like.
I definitely feel like it works better in their favor if they do keep him. I don't know, for some reason, some just feels like they won't. I don't know why they would make that move to let him walk. Because like you said, it's somebody who you want to keep. You want to have a leader there. Because, I mean, let's say for some reason he doesn't end up staying with San Francisco. At that point, it's like, who are you going to look up to? Jordan Matthews, Deebo Samuel, Kendrick Bourne. Like you said, I don't really see a leader on the receiving squad unless you're like deferring and you go, you know what, maybe we don't have a leader in the receiving squad, and we look at Kittles or, you know, somebody to be like mentoring these guys or whatever. Like you said, that scenario would just be weird without having him there. And to have a full season or a full off season to prep and get more time with Garoppolo, maybe that opens up his game a little bit more too. Yeah, man, it'd be real interesting to see what they do with this off season right now with this guy. I mean,
yeah, because here's the thing. Here was the scenario that I looked at, and it played out exactly the way I thought it would.
Okay.
Garoppolo relied way too much on Kittle, and that's not Kittle's fault. Kittle was a big target. You know, you had the running game. Mostert, damn good running back. You know, you have these guys, but when it's time to throw the ball, a lot of those third down targets were to Kittle. True. Because Kittle was so reliable and Garoppolo trusted him so much, nobody else got a chance to see or show what they could do on third down. And that's not nobody's fault. That's just a quarterback looking to somebody he trusts. Any quarterback will do that. Right. Now, if Sanders has a full season and he works with Deebo, he works with the other guy, and he works with Kittle, and then he institutes, you know, blocking on the running game or what he feels could work for screenplays and such like that, and you got a whole season to work with Kyle Shanahan, man, that offense is scary. That's almost I want to say Tony Romo with T.O. numbers right there.
True. I can see that, and we saw this a couple times, right? So you figure when Shanahan was the offensive coordinator in Atlanta, right? So him having Matt Ryan throwing to, Julio Jones, and also utilizing those running backs and Devontae Freeman and a couple other guys they had back there, it was just nasty. And even his time in Cleveland, I mean, you figure he got Josh Gordon to be a Pro Bowl caliber receiver, even amongst all the issues he was dealing with and mediocre quarterback play. And so you can definitely know that Kyle Shanahan knows what he's doing when it comes to the offense and what he can do with a big-time receiver and also the quarterback that's, leading the team. He's just a really good offensive coach. There's no arguing that, I do agree with that. I feel like if he has more time with Emmanuel Sanders and with that backfield and also some more of those younger receivers that we've mentioned, that they definitely could do something big next season. So I feel like that's, like you said, a move they got to get on ASAP, and just kind of make that happen as soon as possible. Speaking of which, last receiver I'll talk about, Amari Cooper. What about that, man?
He's staying in Dallas. I just think the money's too good.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Dak did not play up to his potential like he did the previous 2-3 years. But when you're dealing with Jerry Jones, you have to understand money is not an option to him. Well, money is no big thing to him. Because you're going to pay Zeke if he ain't paid him already. I think he got the contract. If Dak resigns, Dak's going to get that money. Because look at reality. You're getting rid of Jason Garrett.
Mm-hmm.
So you're bringing a new coach in. Fresh blood. You've got Zeke. You've got Dak. You've got Cooper. You've got the other kid. Now, Amari Cooper is up in age, receiver-wise, but still producing.
True.
And like I said, Jerry ain't about to lose. He's not hurting for money, but he ain't going to risk the chance of losing more money by losing a good player that puts butts in the seats. I think he stays in Dallas. End of story.
Okay. Cool. And then I don't want to beat this subject down too much, but there's a couple more guys I was kind of interested in. So, defensive linemen, I got to give some credit to defense here. So, you got Leonard Williams, who's up for free agency, Yannick Ngakoue, and also Jadeveon Clowney. What are your thoughts on those dudes?
I think Clowney leaves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about Ngakoue, if that was his name, if I got it right. And I don't know about the other guy because they're all in good situations, but Clowney's the only one I could see leaving for a money issue.
Mm-hmm.
So if any of the three leaves, my guess would be it would be Clowney with I'd say an 80% chance of him leaving. But it'd be over money. It wouldn't be anything else.
Okay. Now let's say he leaves, right? Where do you think he would end up?
Honestly,
mm-hmm.
I think he could end up in San Francisco. If the situation was right and the money's right, I think he'd end up in San Francisco out on the other side of Bosa.
Okay. That would be actually very interesting right there if he can stay healthy.
It would if he can stay healthy, because that's the first thing San Fran is going to ask. Can you stay healthy? If he can stay healthy, give him at least 10 games, I think he could end. If he does leave, I think he could end up in San Francisco if they make the money worth it and make the money work. Meaning, if that contract and those years match, I think he could end up in San Francisco.
Okay.
But then again, that's only if he leaves.
Okay, yeah. Now, here's something else I was thinking about, too. And I doubt this would happen. But looking at the depth and looking at what we saw the last, 6-7 games of the season, I feel like teams like the Giants, the Browns, maybe even the Bills, I feel like these teams will also be in the mix trying to get him as well. Just the depth that is at defensive end is lacking. And then also, of course, we all knew about Cleveland's situation, losing Garrett. There are some sources saying that he would be reinstated this year. They don't see him really missing time in 2020. So I feel like with him opposite Clowney, if he can be healthy, that would be cool. Because Olivier Vernon, he's aging or whatever. I think he's like 32, 33 now, something like that. And he actually, not succumbed, but his injury was just too great. He couldn't come back and do much with that. And the whole point of having him was opposite Garrett. So it's kind of like, the depth was just lacking. But I feel like there's going to be a bunch of different teams, more than we would like to name off or see, that are going to be trying to go for Clowney right now. But I'm kind of wondering, is he going to end up probably back in the AFC? Will he be a member of an AFC North team or end up going to like a Southern division again, like he was when he was with Houston?
You know what? Now that you bring this up, and we're going to switch topics after this, but now that you bring that up, I would not be surprised, because these are the only two teams in the AFC North, since you brought up the AFC North, that are able to get him. I could see him in Cleveland. Mind you, yes, they picked up Odell's contract, but I think within a year or so, Odell's contract is going to be restructured as a way to try to keep him here longer. And everybody else's rookie contract, Baker, Garrett, everybody, all those guys, their contracts coming up, but that's in another year or so.
True.
So if you want to rent him, I could see the Browns getting him, put him opposite of Garrett. And the other team I could see doing that would be the Steelers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And opposite of what?
Yeah.
Man, that would be
because you already got. Think about it. You have Hayward and you got Watt right now on the defensive line, and they rotate. They rotate sides.
Yep.
Now think about this. If you move, just for the sake of argument, if you move Hayward inside the nose, you put Clowney on one side, Watt on the other. If you're Lamar Jackson or any other quarterback, you in trouble. Because they have all three of those guys have the ability to overpower a line, and you're gonna have to double team one of them. So you're leaving the other two free 1-on-1. True.
And you figure Clowney, his ability to be an edge rusher, and also Watt as well. And mind you, both TJ Watt and Clowney are both guys who can not only line up as defensive ends along the edge, but they're also guys who can drop back and be used as a fourth linebacker as well. So that would be a really interesting scenario on defense. If they were
defensively, even though the Steelers are up in age, they are the best at dropping in zone blitz coverages.
True.
All right, it's going to be an interesting free agency. That's going to be one thing.
Definitely.
All right, moving on from that, before we go any further, this portion of our show is brought to you in part by Train Like Rambo at New Life Fitness Camp. If you want to get your beach body ready or just shed a couple pounds, visit Train Like Rambo at New Life Fitness Camp. You want to talk to Abe Taylor. His number is 216-704-8344, or email him at abetaylorsenior@gmail.com. All right. You said something to me yesterday, and I knew you were going to be glued to this game, but I figured we'd bring it up. the Duke UNC game.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, UNC didn't pull it out, but excuse me, with March Madness coming up, they're going to see Duke again in the conference tournament. What do you see? What do you see that you like and that you don't like out of this year's Tar Heel team? That's my first question.
Well, I feel like with the Tar Heels right now, these guys, they're just so inexperienced. They've been having issues since the beginning of the year. You know, that butt whipping they took to OSU, just little games like that kind of make you question a whole bunch of stuff coming up here. And defensively, they haven't really been known this year to do a whole lot as far as closing out games. I mean, you can see with that glass game they played, they were up by double digits, man. And to have them come back and end up losing in overtime like that at home, I was like, I don't understand what's going on right now. It just was very disappointing. And they've been kind of doing that all year, or I guess for the most part, the last 5 or 6 games, we kind of felt like, oh, okay, maybe this team has figured it out. Maybe they turned it around. Maybe it'll be a little bit different. But as far as their starters and also they have backing them up, it's just such a young team right now. I'm just not sure what they're going to do in the tournament. It's very, very sketchy. They do have 2 local guys on the team from the Columbus area that I've been following. So Sterling Manley, he's from Pickerington, Ohio, outside of Columbus, and also Jeremiah Francis, who is a freshman this year outside of Reynoldsburg. So those 2 names to definitely watch out for. I know Cole Anthony's been getting a lot of hype as well. So they got a lot of young guys who we've seen, but not a lot of guys with experience. McGato's one we've been looking at as well, too. It's just hard to say, man. I mean, the seniors they do have on their team are seniors that didn't get a whole lot of time with that team a few years ago. That was really, really good. So it's just going to be interesting to see what they do in the tournament. I feel like they're going to have some trouble, though. They're definitely going to have some trouble this year. I'm not even sure, to be honest, if they're going to be a full-fledged team in the tournament. I feel like they would do a lot better or fare a lot better this season in the NIT, to be honest with you.
Wow. That's shocking to hear you say that.
And this is me, and I'm a diehard, and, to take my fandom out of it and to look at them and be like, okay, this year is just going to be a slump. Who knows what tournament you'll end up in, just to see like them fall the way they have. And I don't know, man, it's just not looking that great. Some of the L's they've taken, like, I knew they were going to lose in Virginia, right? That game was a lot closer, though, than I thought it was going to be. I mean, they only lost by 9 points. That wasn't a bad game. But to lose to Wolford, to lose to Georgia Tech and get whooped on by them, to lose to Clemson, to lose twice to Pitt, and to lose in double overtime to Virginia Tech. Dude, it just don't look good, bro. It just don't look good. I mean, and then you dropped it to Florida State, bro. Florida State. When have you known Florida State to be good at basketball?
Not since Charlie Ward.
Exactly. See, that's what I'm saying, man. That's why I feel the way I feel, Mel. That's why I feel that way. I just don't see it happening at all, man. I mean, again, oh my gosh. It's painful even talking about it. The team they lost to alone, like Boston College, bro. Like,
I get it. I won't break it up no more.
Sorry.
All right. From that, we move to a little bit of baseball talk. I don't want to sit on this one too long, but Indians settle out with Francisco in arbitration. He's getting $17 million this year. My question is, and Francisco has made it known he wants to stay. So my question to you is, leaving the fandom out of this, do you think the Indians have a shot to keep Francisco and build around him next year?
I feel like they have a shot to keep him and build, but based off of, the recent years and how we both seen this franchise, man, I just feel like once again, they might be cheap and they're going to maybe keep him, but if they don't, they're going to be like, you know what? We're so good at farming. Because I feel like the Indians, what they do is they have one of the best farming systems I've ever seen. And it just kills me because they can be so cheap when it comes to their players. And they'll build these guys up through their system. All of a sudden, they get a little bit of all-star hype where they get, these moves where the fans are all about it or behind them, and they start getting World Series talk. Out of nowhere, when it comes time for that big contract, they're like, you know what? We got two other up-and-coming guys we might try to roll with, and they sell them off to someone else. And it's like a revolving door, man. I don't know. I just feel like I don't want to think of, like, from a fan perspective, but with this team, I just seen it happen too many times, and I'm hoping that they wise up. So they have the ability to do it, yes. Definitely have the ability to. Definitely have the money to. Will it happen? That's where I'm kind of stuck at, just from seeing it happen over and over again. I feel like if they make the smart move, yes, they'll keep him and they'll build around him. If they do what I think they're going to do and they've done over the last decade, they're going to not be able to make it happen.
You know what? I think, honestly, Lindor stays.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I feel like Lindor will stay is because this is one of those scenarios where you got Yasiel Puig, who you may or may not re-sign.
True.
You got Familiar Reyes, who you are optimistic on, but not sold on, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Francisco. So now you have 3 power hitters in your lineup. And you can build around that. So what I'm thinking is restructure his contract, give him another 10 years, give him somewhere in the ballpark of 220 or 210, one of the two. And you find a way to keep Puig and you find a way to keep Reyes, because I honestly believe even with Kluber gone and the pitching staff being younger than past years, I do believe they have enough to at least keep a stranglehold on the division. Yes, Minnesota won it last year, but as we all know in baseball, you ain't guaranteed to repeat like the Indians did over the course of time.
True.
So honestly, I think I'm not firm on this, but I have a very good feeling they are in the office right now trying to figure out a way to keep Puig, Reyes, and Lindor on the roster for at least the next 5 years.
I can see that. I definitely agree with it. And, having somebody like Lindor, that would be huge, man. They definitely need to make sure that they're keeping these guys and doing what they can to extend those contracts or make it attractive enough to be able to make them want to stay. I just really, really hope for a fact that it does go down like that. I was actually searching right now, as you said that, just to see what the updates are, because recently there hasn't been a whole lot of talk about Puig and what they're going to do with him. They're not even listing him on the roster right now, which I find weird too. So I'm trying to figure out if they're possibly letting him walk away and then just keeping Lindor. So it'd be interesting to see what they do too, man.
You know what? I honestly, it's spring training, so anything's possible. But just to end it here, Puig is a good enough player. Reyes is a good enough player. and they're still young. So I don't see why they wouldn't keep him, even though they got him in a trade. So you're still renting him for like another year or so. But honestly, I think they're in the office right now trying to figure out a way to keep all three, because you can literally build around these three and with the pitching staff you have, with the farm system you have everything in order to keep the team running. At least for the next 5 years.
True.
All right. Moving on from that. Next, this portion of our show is brought to you by Supreme Clean Car Wash, located at 441 West Avenue, Talmadge, Ohio. Want to get your car clean? Visit Supreme Clean Car Wash. The number there is 330-633-2809. Ask for Jimmy Melton. He'll get you together. All right. Topic of the night. XFL opened up their season this weekend, and to my surprise, none of these games were bad. St. Louis won tonight's game in prime time. They beat Dallas 15-9. New York throttled Tampa Bay 23-3. Houston and PJ Walker destroyed LA 37-17. And the DC Defenders beat the Seattle Dragons 31-19. Now, here's the interesting thing about the stat line for the DC Defenders game. Cardell Jones went 16 of 27, I believe, for 267 yards, 2 touchdowns, ran for 28, and no picks. Excuse me. No picks. So my question to you is, are they really giving these quarterbacks that leave the NFL a chance to shine? Or do they just not care?
I feel like they don't care, man. I feel like they don't care. I feel like they, went with whatever guy they had. They're like, you know what? This is our dude. We get that you're on the team, but we're not really going to spend a whole lot of time developing you, even though we were the ones that brought you in here. I feel like they just let these guys just do what they want. They walk, whatever. Y'all can choose to stay or not stay. It doesn't matter to me, blah, blah, blah. And then you see them doing their thing, over here. And you're like, okay, is that something they always were able to do? Is it because, the looks that they're throwing to or against are, a little bit different from what they would have, if they were starting in the NFL game? Who knows, right? But my thing is, when you get somebody like PJ Walker, 4 TDs, right? And then Cardell Jones not getting up any type of interceptions, what I got to say about PJ Walker, I am so glad that they started this man, because weren't they trying to get Connor Cook in there at first?
Yeah. And you know what? Connor Cook ain't a bad quarterback, but
no, he's not bad.
But when you got PJ Walker on the field, that's a whole nother dynamic. That's way more that you have to worry about. Connor Cook, you just got to worry about Connor Cook standing back in the backfield and throwing the ball. With PJ Walker, it's too much to worry about.
And then also there's a different relationship there too. So when I was reading up on this, PJ Walker, right, when he was at Temple, played under their coach. So there's a relationship there too. You know what I'm saying? So there's a familiarity there. Call it what you want, as far as other people may be seeing this and going, oh man, favoritism, blah, blah, blah. There's people that are, going to be known for having those relationships built for a reason. And you figure to work with somebody like that 5 years ago, to then have the opportunity to work with them again, of course you're going to go with a guy like that. You know what they're capable of. You know how to bring the best out of them because you had them at a different level of football. And for them to have that tenacity or wanting to be able to shine right now as well, having a spotlight on them in this league, of course you're going to pick them to start. And it worked out great for them. I feel like the type of relationship that they have and what he's shown on the field today, this could be one of the teams that we're looking at later on in that playoff game that they get later on in the season. Because right now, the way it looks was the top 2 seeds for each, part of the league get to be in that game or those games. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and don't forget Jordan Ta'amu. He looked good, man. I mean, it was a defensive game with the St. Louis and Dallas game, but he looked good. He looked really good. Now, while we're on the subject of the XFL, there's some new rules here, and a few of them might be stolen by the NFL by the time the season's over with. First of them, I don't know if you saw the kickoffs. The kicker kicks from the 35, and the kickoff team, the coverage team rather, stands on the opponent's 35, and you're not allowed to move or make a play for the returner until the returner fields the ball. Now,
wow.
Granted, the average starting position was at like the 40, which ain't bad because you're getting 15 free yards. But I'm looking at this and I'm like, damn, this was like the best out of all the rule changes. This was one of the best ones because not only do you eliminate the big collision completely, it's still exciting because it was a couple returns where the returner got free and it was just him and the kicker. And I don't remember if there were any kickoff returns for touchdowns. Right. But that made it exciting because now you really got to make that kicker think, can I make this tackle?
True. And to go along with what you said, so like you said before, I'm looking at the rules here, and it says that, to your point, only the kicker and returner can move until the ball is caught, or 3 seconds after it hits the ground. And then it also says with that, a touchback will be spotted at 35-yard line. And if for some reason the ball goes out of bounds, it'll be placed at the 45.
So either way it go, you vying for field position no matter what.
True.
So if you're a kicker, you better make that kick. Not to mention the punt return rules. Can't move until punt returner has 5 yards to secure the ball, field the ball. He gets 5 yards. On top of that, you can't move as a gunner or the the long snapper can't move until the ball is actually kicked. Man, I was looking at this and I wasn't mad, but it was a part of me was like, why they ain't put this in when I was returning?
Man, just seeing that, and also the fact that they said that if it goes out of bounds or into the end zone, it'll be at 35. I mean, you got cats out here who are nasty in the NFL right now that are known for making that coffin corner. And for this to happen, I mean, could you imagine them punting the ball? It hits, goes out of bounds at like the 2. And because it went out of bounds, they're going to move from the 2 up to the 35-yard line. And
that messes up your average.
Bruh.
That messes, if you're a punter and you do that, that messes up your average for, oh my God.
Forever. Like, you can't get that back, bruh. And then having that type of thing happen, right? It's going to change your mentality when it comes to, do I punt or do I go for it on 4th? Right?
And a lot of teams went for it on 4th down.
Yep. Because you figure if they're going to end up on the 35 anyway, if I'm inside of the 35, if I'm on the other team's, let's say, 20-yard line or something, I don't know. I'm going to go for it probably every time with these rules, And on top of that, think about this too. Another kicking situation, since we're talking about people using their feet, there's 3 options at the score in the touchdown, just so people know. You got your 1-point play, which they can kick from the 2-yard line. You got a 2-point play where they can kick from the 3-yard line, or a 3-point play where they can kick from the 10-yard line, right? Because there's no option to kick an extra point.
Yeah, because you have to go for 2 each on all of those options, which is the good thing about it. You can still kick a field goal if you anywhere in field goal range, but once you score that touchdown, now you have to think: do we want 1? Do we want 2? Do we want 3? How you want this to work? And I absolutely love that option, because I think Vince McMahon, for this to be the opening weekend, he put a damn good football product on the field. Not only did he have the right product on the field, he had the right broadcasters every game.
Yep.
Not only did he have the right broadcasters every game, he had it on the right channel in between games. So you didn't miss anything. I like the way he set this up. Now, later on in the season, I want to see how this plays out, because really, he don't have no more competition. Arena football shut down. I mean, we can cover the lower tier leagues, the IFL, the NAL, the AAL, but mainstream, he got it on lock. He's got the spring league, for at least for this year, he's got it on lock. And I was not disappointed with this football. This was a good brand of football to see.
Oh yeah, and then you figure you tweak a couple other rules where they have less time between the ball being down. I believe it's down to 25 seconds, something like that. And then also on top of that, they were saying how they're doing this in order to make sure the game moves along quicker. Like, you shorten the halftime down to 10 minutes instead of 15, little things like that. And I guess their overall goal too was to say, okay, let's see if we can make this work and make the game cap at around 2 hours and 45 minutes, where an average NFL game is around 3 or 3 hours and 6. So, wondering, will that be successful? Will that work? I think it will be. I feel like the rule changes that they've done are a lot more reasonable when it comes to their style of play. And I also feel as though it's going to encourage a lot more trickery when it comes to the offense as well, too. Because there was a rule where they said here, too, that there's a rule where it allows for 2 forward passes on one play, providing that the first doesn't go past the line of scrimmage, which is supposed to make them be more creative with their trick plays, because there's no risk of losing a possession of a lateral or backward pass, whichever ball is live. So I'm like, man, this is going to be pretty interesting as the season goes on, just to see how that plays out too.
You know what? I like the rule changes, and I like that this is a different aspect of football that you would never think to look at. I also think I love the drone cameras, and I like the way that they're in the booth when they have to review a play. But I could do without. The only thing I really had a problem with was the sideline interviews. Like, you don't have to be in everybody's face after every time they screw up.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
One coach was he had to apologize, because he's like, I'm trying to get my pass rushers to get the rusher on the quarterback. And I'm just like, why don't you just let this man coach? Do like every other reporter, catch him at halftime. But aside from that, this was a breathtakingly good take on football, because it made me look at football, one, in a safer way. Two, damn, they really innovated some stuff that might be stolen by the NFL come next year, because I honestly believe that kickoff rule will be in the NFL at some point within the next year or so.
Oh yeah, definitely. You figure NFLPA gonna be trying to definitely push for that.
Yeah, and then they may steal the drone camera too. Who knows? I really think they're gonna touch the drone camera, because that drone camera was on point. That was almost as good as that was actually better than the sky cam that they invented with the first XFL.
Yep. And speaking of which, I mean, for those that don't know, with the XFL previously, We're talking about a league that has been out of our eyes for almost 20 years. Okay. So for you to think about that, let's say you're someone that's just kind of checking this out. You're a lot younger. You don't really remember much of it because you're in your mid-20s, something like that. Just know for a fact that what they've done with this league versus what they've done 20 years ago is a vast improvement. And I'm thinking that it's going to be something that can definitely be around for a long time if they play their cards right. And if the commissioner does what he's supposed to do, because apparently Vince McMahon has invested a lot of money into this commissioner they have currently. And he's supposed to be really good at, running this league. So we'll see what they do, man. It'll definitely be a far cry from the AAF they tried to do last year or whatever they're doing with that.
And you know what? I don't blame the players or the product of the on-field product of the AAF. I just think they rushed it. They did. But with this XFL was timed right. It was planned out right. And they got players that are either A, still in their prime, or B, hungry enough to want to either get back on the field or get back to the league. And it showed because there were big hits, there were big plays. A lot of people are looking at it like, man, some of these games was blowout. Yes, true. 3 out of the 4 games, the home team won. But you have to look at it from a standpoint as these were guys with players that are hungry. Both teams were hungry every game. Somebody got to lose. Somebody has to lose. But in the long run, I think with this, the way this is set up right now, I think this is going to be a competitive season. And I can't wait to see what it looks like 3-4 weeks down the road.
I totally agree, man. This is something that I'm definitely going to be paying a lot more attention to. Just to be able to have football right now and to have it go all the way through, NFL draft time is very exciting. And I just feel like it's something that people should definitely, watch a little bit closer and make sure that they kind of look at the differences in the rules and how things play out. So I'm definitely pleased by what we saw this weekend. I feel like it's something that looks way more legit than it did previously back in 2000, 2001. And, hats off to, McMahon and what he's doing, and also to the players that we see out there who we actually have a better idea who they are, and them still being able to go out there and do their thing, man.
Right, because this was an entertaining weekend of football a week after the Super Bowl is over. All right, folks, that concludes this week's show. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Next week, we will have a lot more to talk about. I'm pretty sure, actually, spring training is starting up, so a lot of spring baseball games will be starting up. We might have some basketball talk, who knows? And we will be starting up our Be a Guest on the Show contest, so be on the lookout for that because we really want you guys to interact with us, talk with us more, and we are hoping that you guys want to at least be a guest on the show.
And thank you all for tuning in once again. Like Mel said, we have a bunch of different topics we want to get into. Of course, there's a lot of league changes going on with various sports getting ready to take over. As far as the publicity is going to be jumping up off of that. So you got MLB starting up. The NBA will have its All-Star weekend, and then they're going to go ahead and kick that into high gear as far as playoffs. And then the XFL is back. So a lot of things to talk about. And also, please remember, you can follow us on Anchor app, obviously, is where our first source was. We've got Apple, we've got Google Podcasts, Spotify, also YouTube channel, Method 8 Inc. You can definitely check it out on there as well, too. And make sure you subscribe so you know when that video posts, and also for the individual running that as well. Definitely shout out to him for what he's been doing to help us out, too.
And don't forget to hit that like.
Yeah, man. Exactly. And, we have our pages up. I'm still working on the one for Twitter and also Instagram. So we have one up for Facebook. If you have any questions or concerns, things you want to talk about, put out there, anything for us you want to kind of have us cover, let us know as well. Like Mel said, we want to interact with you guys as much as possible.
All right, much love to you guys, and we'll see you guys next week with more topics and more questions that are answered and unanswered in the world of sports. So, Smooth, talk to you later. You guys take it easy.
Y'all take care.